also you have the magic slot goblin who just wants to come by and he will trade you a magic, a casting slot, a spell slot for some sort of treat. You also use that guy too.
Sure.
What are you talking about?
In reverse. He'll give you a treat for a spell slot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. He just runs around and he's like, here, I'll give you this nice treat if you give me one of your spell slots.
And then he stabs you with a poison knife.
I was just about to say, are you guys just being coy about the idea of just having a goblin attack your party before they get into a big combat?
No, I kind of want to have a
genuine
spell slot
dealer.
goblin.
Yeah.
You just feed him a
slot
spell
dealer.
slot. Yeah.
Where he's like, hey, cast your spell
Hey,
onto my
adventurer,
magic
I got
orb.
spell slots. You buying?
I wasn't thinking that.
selling spell
Welcome.
slots?
I wasn't thinking that, but also I'm down for that too.
Welcome to Take the Damage podcast by Unfortunate Ones. I'm Sav,
I'm Nix.
I'm Greythorn.
and today we are talking about 6. What's the 6?
Is rest and healing.
Rest and healing. It's bullshit. I want Gray flying out the gate on this one.
You ever have a time where you throw some
Is this an ad read?
trials, yes, some trials and tribulations at your players, and it's like, man, good fight, guys. You're all beat up and wounded and bloodied, and then they all sleep it off and they're perfectly fine the next day, and it's like it never happened. Yeah, fuck that.
It's my biggest gripe with 5e.
It is the worst thing about.
Well, you
It's not just 5e, by the way. It's a lot of systems.
You don't
Mhm.
like your 150 HP fighter being down 3 times in a combat, being revived by your healer through a healing word, also using their second wind and maybe like a relentless ability.
And then going down once more, and a character that doesn't have healing spells because the party's out of healing spells happens to succeed the roll to just stabilize them, and they sleep
or
for
just have a
24
healing kit.
hours.
Or spare the dying, something like
whatever.
Or just have a 5 gold healing kit.
Yeah, and then they have
they
1 HP.
that. They sleep for 8 hours and then they're perfectly fine.
Not just perfectly fine, peak.
Peak,
Peak,
yeah.
yes.
Peak.
Actually, because of that big fight and they survived it and it's the next day, probably better. Probably better than they were when they entered the fight.
Oh,
8
like
hours
if they
beforehand.
leveled, you
Yeah,
mean?
the Goku style. They nearly died and then they came back twice as
they
strong.
really are Saiyans. They're really most
5e's so
5e is
crazy
Saiyans.
superpower. But I mean, it's in a lot of systems. It's why I like systems that incorporate some type of wound system. I hear Pathfinder's great for it, by the way. I hear Pathfinder has like
I don't know enough about it.
pretty so it has a similar thing to G&G, where I think there's like a wound system thing, and then the only way to get that off, you have to, it's still a long rest, but you have to long rest in a town.
Mm.
As in, I think the concept behind it is in like, oh, you need a long rest somewhere like genuinely where rest can take place, not just in the woods somewhere.
I think DCC is like that too. DCC and like I think AD&D also you have to be like in a safe location.
In AD&D, your rest has to be, there has to be like suitable food, water, warmth, and comfort. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a safe place.
okay,
Like if you have a comfortable tent in the woods, like if you're, have a proper camping setup that works too.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. I think DCC extends it to where I have to look it up again, but I'm pretty sure it's like it has to be like a safe location. Like it has to be somewhere where you can not be disturbed. And it's like 7 days for like a full rest in DCC or something like that.
Oh, that's mad. I love it, but that's crazy cool.
Yeah.
I do that.
Yeah.
I don't do that specifically with G&G, but G&G was pretty harsh. So G&G, you have your current health, your current max health, and then your max health, and then wounds. Anytime you took what would be considered lethal damage, half of that would go into your wounds, and then your wounds is subtracted from your max, and that is what your current max is. So if you have 26 HP as your max, and you take 12 damage, your max is now 20. That's the most you could heal to. And talking about that from a starting off point, That's the most you can heal to. How do you heal in G&G? There's no magic in that world. Well, a long rest, you roll to see if it was a successful heal, and then you get 1 point of health back. And then you could do like med kits or whatever one time per day, which gets you like maybe a D4.
I think it was a D4, yeah.
Yeah. And all of that is just to get you back to your current max of 20. But you still have all of those wound points. Every rest that you take while you have wound points is you have to make a roll to see if your wounds turn to infections. If your wounds turn to infections, you no longer get any healing, and you take a D4 of damage from your infection per day. Like at the end of a long rest, you get an extra D4 damage.
Yeah.
How do you get rid of wound points? You need to see a doctor. You need to get actually, the way I worded it, I moved away from doctor, medical facility. So that can be gamed, which is important if you have
somebody who's willing to go down the route of becoming
if you have
medically knowledgeable and willing
and
to
purchasing the equipment and whatnot in order to be able to properly treat someone, then yeah, you could have potentially a camp doctor.
Like what Ace was trying to do.
Yeah. Ace
100% what Ace was trying to do. It's why I reworded it, because I was like, that's a reasonable enough thing to do. And I worded it in a way where not everybody's going to do that, but you could do that. But yeah, so you have to go to a doctor in order to get those wound points off. I think you can get 1 wound point off if you roll when you roll for the infection. If you roll super low, then you get infected. If you roll super high, you get a wound point off. So you can naturally heal in the woods. It's just going to take you like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And you risk being infected doing so. But it's a cowboy campaign. It's meant to take place in or around towns, or a cowboy system. So it's not like crazy to have to go to a doctor, but it changes things. Because going to the doctors has specific rules as well, where the doctor can only heal you for a certain amount of wound points and health points over a certain amount of time. It's much faster than healing in the woods, but it might take you like 2 or 3 days to heal. If you got that fucked up, it might take you like 2 or 3 days to heal at the doctor's office. The big thing about the doctor's office is you no longer risk infection at all, and you're guaranteed to come back to full health.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time. And all of that is so that, 1, it feels like you actually get hurt when you get hurt, and 2, it makes you not want to get hurt. It makes you not want to get, like, it really plays against chaotic players. Because it's like, if you guys know that you guys are at high noon going into a situation that might turn into a gunfight, and at 8 a.m., you guys are doing a shopping spree for no reason, and someone spits on your boots, you're going to think twice before just pulling your gun. Because you might get really fucked up here, and then when at high noon, when you go into the situation you know you might get fucked up, you might be going in pretty weak.
Yeah.
So it really makes you think about when and where to start fights. You really, in that game, you really have to choose your battles, and it's because healing is so harsh.
Yeah. I mean, it's I believe, like, in terms of, like, talking about rest and healing in harsher systems, like, DCC is also, I believe, a day's rest that you could do at night. I believe it's a 1 HP. So if you rest at any point, like, I think 1 day is always just 1 HP.
Yeah.
But again, it's also helped by that system having a relatively low HP, like G&G. It's relatively low, at least by comparison to something like Pathfinder or 5e.
Yeah. I don't think it needs to be that harsh. Like, if I were to game 5e, I think the rule that I would want to implement is just a short rest is just a reason to stave off exhaustion. And to get back any features, because there's a lot of features that are restored on a short rest. That's the point of a short rest. No hit die. And then hit die is something you can do at a long rest. That's the way I would do it. Would be, let's say you have 3 hit die or whatever. That's not going to get you back to full health, but it would definitely help. You know what I mean? So basically, over the course of 1 to 3 long rests, you would be able to roll your hit die and get back up to full health. But it would take 1 to 3 long rests. It's not going to happen in a single long rest. Does that make sense?
Sorry, your long rest.
So so right now, you get hit die, which you can use to regenerate health, to heal, and that happens at a short rest by
Sure.
rules as written. I'm saying make that happen at long rest. So at long rest, you roll your hit die to see how much health you regenerate, instead of just going back to full health.
Oh, okay. And then I assume at the end of that rest, your hit dice recovers.
Of course. Yeah. So you get your hit dice back, but you would have to go through another long rest. And I wouldn't even mind if people were like, well, can I just continue resting? It's like, yeah, you could burn a day resting. If you're that messed up and you got like sword wounds and whatnot, yeah, you might spend an extra 8 hours in bed. I could see that. So like even that version of gamifying it, you go back into the consequence of time, which is for me the biggest thing is the 8 hours and you're fully healed is bullshit. But if it takes up to 3 long rests to roll enough hit die on average to get back to full health, it's like, yeah, you could stay in bed for like 16 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me. It's the fact that a short rest and you're back up to peak is what's crazy. And then just all of the long rest and short rest features that recover, those could be left alone. Those are fine. You caught your breath. You could do magic again. That doesn't bother me.
Yeah, for certain classes, yeah.
Yeah, but my point is,
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
Those abilities that get recovered on those time periods.
Yeah, those leave
they're fine.
alone.
It's
But
health.
just get rid of the restore full health on long rest and move the hit die to be to long rest only.
Yeah, I
would be
forgot-
my counter pitch to 5e's system.
What's the like generally considered the variation of brutal realism? It's like a short rest is
A short
8
rest,
hours.
Short
is
rest
8
8 hours, long rest is a week.
Yeah.
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 That's kind of what I use.
Yeah.
I broke my rest system up into 4 separate rests. The short rest is now quick rests, which is an hour. You get like warlock feats and like fighter feats back, the weak
Yeah.
ones. And you can roll 1 die. And then short rest is short rest. You can roll up to a number of hit dice equal to your Constitution modifier. And then I think you could learn new spells. And you don't get anything else back unless it says recovers on a short rest. Then long rest is 24 hours. And you get any number of hit dice, I think. You get back 1 hit dice. And then you could get back a number of spells equal to like 1d your spellcasting mod.
Mm-hmm.
And then all your long rest stuff. And then full rest is just the standard 5th edition long rest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
but it's a week.
Yeah, it's a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I just
although I was still thinking of gutting all of that and taking away all the hit dice, or just taking hit dice recovery out of the game completely. But I
I
don't know.
would just go with hard set numbers or.
Probably.
Oh, okay.
counter pitch. Get rid of all of your rest systems except for the long rest. Long rest is 8 hours, and your hit dice, you just only get 1. 1 per day.
I think that's too much.
You get a D12 back every day. Not bad.
That's for a barbarian.
You get a D6 back every day. Don't pick wizards.
Well, I mean, I still think it's a bit too much.
Like too much health back, or
Too harsh.
Too harsh. Like I still
Too
would.
harsh.
I still like the idea of getting at least 1 HP a day, a night, because I do like the AD&D system.
Yeah, but a hit die would be minimum 1.
Yeah. And then I might do that. Just leave them one hit dice, and then they have like the natural baseline recovery. But too much healing, even in my games, and I've
Well, the week
kicked the shit out of healing.
could be your excuse for like, if you guys are gonna rest for a week, you don't need to roll. If you're gonna rest for 3 days, roll 3 hit die. If you're gonna rest for 2 days, roll 2 hit die. If you're gonna rest for 5 days, roll 5 hit die. If you're gonna rest for a week, it's fine. You could just heal. We don't have to do math.
At 5 hit dice, you're usually back to full.
Yeah.
In most cases, and if there's someone who has spells,
But that makes it interesting because they could try to game it and be like, we're only going to rest for 5 days. And then they all roll their 5 hit die and one of them's not fully healed. And they're like, can we rest another day or two?
Sure, but then someone's gonna be like, "Oh, cure light wounds."
Yeah. So like, I think in my mind, I don't know what I think it's again just to let people have fun, and also I think the I had to actually look back at AD&D and how it also divvied out resting and what resting was.
It was it counted as like sleep for a night or 8-hour rest, and then you get 1 HP if you have a person with a healer feat, then you get 3 HP. And if they have herbalism, I think they get that 3 HP. Actually,
where was the shift to like the 5e style? Was that
I want to say that was 3. Yeah,
or 3,
Probably-
3.5?
Probably 3-5 would be my guess.
Pathfinder had that too.
Oh, so it's probably 3.
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm just trying to think of like, because part of me is like I get the short rest thing in terms of that concept when it came to dungeon delving, because that's a lot of like, at least from what I hear and what I understand about the history of D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, is like the concept was your characters going through dungeon adventures and like, or like a war game or going through battles.
Well, also just having multiple fights in a single
Yeah, and so like
in a single air quotes day.
short resting was the majority of what you would consider most people kind of going through in their session. And then they're kind of like, oh yeah, in between you do your long rest. And yeah, of course you're going to be out of this situation. You're not long resting at a campsite. You're long resting when you're back home between the next dungeon. So like, I wonder like how much
They just feel like outdated rules, yeah.
Yeah, how much that plays a part. But again, it's
Well, because also like, at least in my campaigns, like it's a minimum of like, I would say like 3 or 4 sessions minimum that you're going to run into combats. So like that could be weeks of time passing. You're going to have so many short and long rests. Essentially, healing doesn't matter in a game like that because like, yeah, you're going to have like, with the rules as written, it just makes it even more superhero-y because like my players are always at peak when they go into a battle because we're playing rules as written, and it's been a month since their last battle. They've had plenty of long rests, plenty of short rests.
I wonder too, like how much of it is just like gamifying it, like video gamifying the system, where like most video games, like it isn't like, it's not a struggle to heal. Most characters just heal over time. Like you have a character, you go through a battle and you fight something and your HP gets low, and you're just like, either you have a system of like healing pots that heal you,
Sure,
or your character rests by a fire. And it's in video
but
game
resting
time.
by a fire is short and long rest.
Yeah, but like in video game time, it's 5 seconds. Like it's
Sure.
It usually when you do that, it doesn't necessarily reset the board. Some games do have it, like it resets the environment, and like when you go to a campsite.
A lot of games has to reset the environment.
Yeah, so like
I like that in Skyrim, you could at any point rest, and it literally just brings up a clock, and you can just slide it over to 12 hours, and then it just ticks through, and the environment changes around you as it ticks through. The idea, I assume, is obviously you wouldn't just be standing in the middle of the street. Conceptually, you have to put yourself like, you're leaning up against a wall or whatever the fuck it is, or like you went back to your place or whatever. But anyways, you could kind of rest in that manner.
Yeah, I think like Elden Ring also has like, if you're resting at a campsite, you can change what the
Time of day
is. Again, I think all under the assumption that there's an amount of time that's passing.
Yeah.
When you're at these campfires.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I wonder how much of like the 5e rest system is like influenced by that, where like everything gets healed.
I think it's more
like so quickly, so you could just kind of keep going, you keep moving, keep playing.
It's to keep going, keep moving, keep playing. I think you're right. I think it is just from the dungeon days where like you would have to. You can't spend a week sleeping in the dungeon to move on or whatever. You wouldn't have enough food. Food was important. Rations and whatnot are important. People look at adventure gear now and they're like, rations? Why does that matter? It did. It did matter. How long you spend in this dungeon without food matters very significantly. So like,
that's hilarious. Like just like every character, if you make a roll out a character
Mm-hmm.
baseline, almost every kit, almost everything is like, oh, you get up like a box of rations.
Like
or
10 rations, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, who the fuck plays in any game?
Hmm.
I've never seen any game where anybody talks about their rations. Like who
But you-
brings up their rations?
Again, you used to. So like
yeah,
again,
it used to be important for sure. I'm just saying
10-foot
that, like,
poles used to be really important
Yeah.
because of dungeons. You would use that to set off traps, and check if there are traps or whatever. It was an actual tool. And so were rations, and so were rests, because you would have to calculate when to take a rest in order to continue on in this dungeon in case anything happens to you. But it's just not how D&D is played today. So they just feel like outdated rules to me.
well, outdated in the sense that, like, if you don't want that feel to your game, if you don't like that feel to, like, everyone heals so quickly, because it's as much as we made the initial joke about, like, oh, everyone's Saiyans and everyone, like,
Yeah.
it is ridiculous. It is still, like, if that's the vibe you want, if it is, like, again,
Oh, of course. It's
You
just
wanna-
not commonly what I see what people play into. People play into, longer campaigns, narratively driven campaigns, and even combat driven campaigns. But usually it's like a combat a day. So you're going in peak every single time. You might as well just not have rules where you can be sub peak.
yeah, I mean, so I'm just, is that a pro or against the 5e style healing?
It's outdated.
Oh, okay. All I was just saying was, like, I think if you want that vibe of like an RPG, of like an Elden Ring or whatever, where, like,
Yeah.
you just hit a campsite and you're fully back and you can do whatever you want to. Your healing pots are all back. You don't have to go and buy new ones. You don't have to go and whatever. Like, everything is just refilled. Like, yeah, I mean, that's a vibe of a game. That's like
Yeah, I'm not saying that you can't run it. I'm just saying, to me, that almost feels like alternative rules if you're playing that style campaign, but more campaigns aren't in that style.
I mean, I don't have enough experiences with. I know us personally, we like the concept of making it a little harsher.
Yeah.
But I don't have enough experience of, like, seeing enough people playing. Like, most of the things that I see, most of the games that I see play are not brutal realism. Like,
No.
people
None
do
of mine
not-
are. Mine are all rules as written.
Exactly. Most of the times I see people playing a game, it is this very heroic, very beefed up, very RPG. Like, you hit a campsite, everything's back, and, like, people just like that. People don't like walking around low or without resources.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the biggest thing. Like, granted, whether or not, like, yes,
A lot of people don't like struggling.
or not even struggling. It's just seeing low numbers on their sheets.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you talk about how, like, your games that you're running, you have enough time between any particular battle where the characters would be fully healed by the time they would have to fight again. But, like, I think a lot of people don't necessarily want in that time period. Like, a lot of people shy away from, like, oh, my character has 40 HP and I see a 15 number here.
Yeah, because they're
And
scared.
I have 5 spells and I have 2 left. I just think people don't like seeing that. And so that's
But
part of-
the problem is that a lot of these rules come from an era where resource management was important. Like, a lot of the rules that give you these resources back
sure.
came from an era when resource management was important, and now the rules make it so that resource management essentially isn't important. And, like, yeah, if you're just RPing, use all of your spells. Who cares? By the time you get into a combat, you're gonna have them all back, anyways. Which does play into what you're talking about, but I feel like kind of like what came first, chicken or egg thing. I think the reason why people don't like walking around without health or without spells or any of those things is because it's become such a norm to go into every situation at peak and not have to think about being at peak, that people don't like not being at peak anymore.
Sure.
Which is fine. And if that's the state that the game is in today, then it is. It's fine. If people don't like it, then why force it on them? But I think people don't like it just because it's old rules that used to exist when resource management mattered and rests were
resource
strategic.
management mattering on a long-term basis versus a short-term basis.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because combats were more frequent, traps were more frequent, shit like that would happen all the
Well,
time.
the concept of a session or multiple sessions would be taking place in kind of like a singular location.
Yeah, or a singular day or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah. But I feel like kind of those rules carried into the modern day where resource management has, because of those rules and the way they play with the new system, resource management just isn't as important anymore. And if you were to now harshen up the rests to match campaigns where multiple days transpire or even months or whatever, combat is less frequent. And if you were to now manipulate the rules to match what campaigns are today, people are so used to how it's slowly transitioned into not needing to control your resources anymore that people get uncomfortable when they have to think about managing their resources.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think the only thing I bite back a little bit on what you're saying is like, I just don't know. Like a lot of campaigns just go with, because you said like a lot of campaigns how they are now, but it's like, yeah, but most campaigns operate in this viewpoint where like resource management is short term. Resource management isn't long term.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is resource management is short term to almost non-existent because you're not living within a dungeon that's constantly trying to kill you anymore. You're living within a world, and days pass and travel happens and all of those things happen. But the resting system is similar to the way it was, in terms of like really good recovery still exists, but it's really good recovery over longer playtime, or longer in world time. So that's made it so that resource management is less important. It's short term, kind of like you're saying. And I'm saying, I'm agreeing with you. That is the modern state of things. That is how games are played. That's how, I mean, if you're playing rules as written, that is how things are. What I'm saying is that if you were to adapt the resting rules to be more appropriate to the longer in-world time, all of a sudden managing your resources would become important again, the way it was important before. But it's happened so slowly that campaigns have turned into what they have turned into today that it's become so normal to not have to manage your resources.
Sure.
So I think people are so comfortable at this point not managing their resources that it would make people uncomfortable, which might be a reason not to do it. It might be if people are uncomfortable and they're not having fun because they're constantly almost dead, then it might be a reason to do it. I know when we play harsher systems, you are a little bit less into it. So it's some aspects of it.
I'm less so when it's a harsher system, depending on how harsh it is, it's harder for me to it depends on the kind of character I'm playing.
Of course.
So like a harsher system, I like playing it. I like DCC. I think DCC is.
I think you like all of them.
It's really fun. AD&D I really like. It's just that if I'm playing a harsh system, and I'm also trying to play a game which I'm really supposed to care about the character, and care about the world that he lives in and his consequences and actions and stuff. To me, that's really hard.
Yeah, I understand,
because it's like, oh man, like it's kind of, I would live life how I live life now, which is like, I'm not. Hey dog, I'm not gonna pick up a sword and go swing it at somebody.
Dude, Brennan Lee Mulligan it was in some interview, and he had such a great stance point where he talked about kind of that perspective where he's like, oh yeah, like people like, why doesn't everybody just be an adventurer if you could just go find dragon loot and whatnot? And it's like, you would have to be like, think about yourself in your daily life and how much danger you put yourself in right? And then think about what all of your adventurer characters have gone through. You'd have to be a fucking madman to face a dragon.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Why would anybody decide I'm going to pick up a sword and go try and cut down a cyclops so that I could get his loot?
Yeah.
Does it pay well? Of course it pays well. Why does it pay well? Because you're getting hazard pay. Because you're gonna die. So you wouldn't do that.
If I had a character that he cared about his self-preservation, and I was in a harsh system,
Yeah.
like fuck that. Why would he do? Why would I?
There has to be a level of not caring about self-preservation. So
I would have to make the character almost suicidal, where it's like
not necessarily.
he wants to be. He would just be willing to risk his life.
Bringing it back to the real world, crime is very dangerous.
Sure.
But crime oftentimes pays very well.
Sure.
The vast majority of people don't do crime because they're like us. It's not worth the risk. I rather just hate my life and work a 9 to 5. But there are people that do it, and they're not all psychopaths or suicidal or anything like that. They're willing enough to take the risk to potentially get the reward. And I feel like that's the mindset of the character that you kind of got to try and write is a character that is willing to face the risk for the reward for whatever reason. It could be because you're suicidal, but it doesn't have to be because you're suicidal. But yeah, there's a reason why. In almost every campaign, there are commoners making shoes, selling food at food carts, and doing all of these things in this world. And they're not just all adventurers.
Well, maybe they should just go grind some boars for, a few weeks.
Few weeks in the boar forest, man.
Yeah.
You got no more boars left.
Why are you wealthy? Why are you powerful? Because you haven't died yet. But also, that commoner where you're like a pitiful commoner selling hats on the street for pennies. What an idiot. Yeah, but he's probably going to outlive you. Like, do you like recognize the fact that in every campaign, player death and TPKs is on the table? You know who it's not on the table for? The guy selling hats from his little cart in the town.
Unless your players decide to bring their problems to that commoner. Then no amount of rest is going to help a 10 HP commoner.
I need the restroom again. I'll be back.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I know we've talked about it a lot, but it's. I wonder how much our style preference. It has to be very little. Like our preferences of like, oh, we like to play a little bit more brutal. We like to live in that space where TTRPGs are a little harsher than they are in current rules as written. And a bunch of people do, because there's a whole brutal realism take, and there's all these different things that people tried to do to adjust 5e. But I know it's allowed for us because we look into it and we like it. But I wonder if it has to be like 90% of the player base doesn't want that.
Wizards figured out that you make more money catering to the lowest common denominator. And a lot of game companies find that out.
Sure.
So what that means is less friction, more coolness, less risk. So I would assume that most of the player base is pretty much in on I go to sleep, I wake up, it's like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, but
except I got stronger.
Yes.
Or richer.
Yes.
So,
the only thing I would say is in the idea of the lowest common denominator, I immediately think of, I brought it up earlier, which is like Elden Ring. Elden Ring is considered, it is the least harsh of all of the FromSoft games, but it is still in one of the subcategories of video games that are like, it's the fucking get good, quote unquote, get good thing, which is, it's a very harsh game, but its rest system is still.
Well, yeah, but you're not actually losing anything. You're losing runes that you might have picked up that you haven't spent on yourself.
Sure.
But you can get those all back real quickly.
Yeah.
Invade someone, kill them, you get them all back. You pretty much get them all back.
Yeah.
But you're not losing anything. When you die in a D&D game unless somebody has resurrection or revivify or raise
you are
dead,
gone.
your character's dead.
Yeah.
Or
that's
unless your
true.
DM lets you do some Critical Role-esque ritual to revive someone from the dead by playing a song and praying to the gods, like
Well,
you're
I mean
gone.
that's that flavor text. I believe Matt is even harsher than the rules is written because I believe he increases DC.
He does.
So like your DC, if your character dies and you get revived, every single time you get revived, the DC goes up
To revive you.
to revive you. I believe that's how Matt plays it.
I like that.
Yeah. Versus rules is written, it's always a constant DC. It's just the spell. There's no
Well, it depends too. I'm not sure if it's the case in 5th edition, but I know like Pathfinder has Raise Dead, and Raise Dead makes it so that if you use Raise Dead on a creature more times than they have Constitution scored, then you can't Raise Dead anymore, or something like that.
Okay.
They
I
should
need to
just
look
raise
into that.
undead.
Well, there's also
the spell above that. There's resurrection.
There's also skeletons, so like once they're dead, you just and now you're a zombie.
And then there's
And you're my friend forever because you're dead.
The 9th level one, which is like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, then there's resurrections and true resurrection.
You resurrect,
True
your,
resurrection,
you
that's right.
resurrect your friend, and if you resurrect them on their constitution, then they come back zombie, and you just strip them of their intelligence score.
That's when you put a collar on their neck.
Your character's still alive. Like don't retire them. What are you doing? Why are you retiring your character? They're still alive. They're fine. You get to continue playing your character that you love.
Exactly.
Anyways, you have a -4 to your intelligence rolls.
That's when
So you
put
can't speak. You don't understand language.
that's when you put a collar on their neck. You put them in your shed and you play video games with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were gonna go Walking Dead.
No, I went Shaun of the Dead.
Walking Dead was when they introduced the character Michonne. I think that was her name.
Yeah.
She had 2 people from her actual life that turned into zombies that she was, whatever reason, mad at. I don't remember. But also, she'd lost her mind in the apocalypse or whatever. She comes in crazy and then they reel her back.
Okay.
This is such a good character. But when they find her, she walks with 2 zombies with no jaws and no arms chained to her.
Yeah.
As protection, and she could just walk through hordes and shit. And she has a katana, and she's a fucking badass, and it's awesome. That's where I thought you were going with it because they had the chain collars and whatnot. As well.
I was going Shaun of the Dead in the movie where he has his buddy tied in the back and playing video games.
Well, that's
with
the
him.
best zombie movie.
Yeah. That is the best zombie movie.
I think that's a great way to bring a character back. All right, before we dive super deep into healing in general, because we did the resting, I think we should hear from our sponsors.
Sure. Oh fuck! I forgot how to play in this.
Dude, like 5 in a row.
It's always gonna happen. I just forget that I'm
You're
responsible
the guy.
for this. Hey, you know that first little exhale. That's just me. That's your that's your guys' reaction to me.
On the loot table, let's go and see who our sponsors will be.
Now you're singing along. Now you made it hard for
Let's go
yourself
roll the
because you're editing this one.
We've jacked that whole thing up anyways. All right, today's sponsor is Tome Tales.
Oh no.
Is that one you haven't written?
We'll see.
We'll see.
Oh no.
I can't
Is
wait.
it a long one? Is that what you're?
I can't wait for it to get to one where we have to bleep out the whole thing.
Wait, hold on. I gotta reposition myself so I'm not looking at Gray.
It's fine. It's fine.
Let me just move over here.
It's fine.
Ding ding.
Ding ding. We all know the life of adventure. It has its ups and it has its downs. Sometimes these downs can be, well, very down. Outright boringly down. You stop at one town, find a job on a bulletin board, go ask around, travel to another town, and another, and so on and so on. Sometimes we're lucky enough to find something exciting on the road to break up the monotony and give us something to occupy our minds when we camp out in the wilderness. But there's no need to wait for bands of brigands or exotic feline merchants to make their way onto our encounter tables when we can turn to Tome Tales to bring them to life in our mind. Tome Tales provides you with an extensive library of auditory odysseys where every audiobook is narrated by seasoned adventurers who experience those tales firsthand. But why take my word for it? Here's an excerpt from
Oh my god.
Oh no.
from of Kobold and Big Fish, narrated by our very own Captain Blacktail. No.
You quiet down there, Nix.
I sniff through big trees. Funny place. Make eyes see stuff. No first subordinates color. Can't touch color. No like. No follow nose. No for den. Oh, food. Smell good. Nose take me there. See spearwoman take sweet bread from counter. No for call it donut. Donut. I say that out loud? Oh no. She look at me funny. No fir's angry. I run. No fight. Need find big fish. And if that's not enough to entice you to subscribing to Tome Tales, they have now a breakthrough in divination technology that allows you to translate your Tome Tale into any language you like, allowing you to experience stories from all of the various kinds of creatures of the realms. Check out this brand new cultification feature. Cultification feature that lets you hear Blacktail's story from the ears of his own kind. I continue tracking the sweet olfactory bliss, leading me through this strange enchanted wood. Its magic assaulting my eyes with a strange phenomena that my human compatriots call color. Not a fan, honestly, but at least I can still trust my nose. I continue to follow the scent to a small human town as I peer out into the alleyway. In search of this delightful scent, I catch a glimpse of a brunette-haired lass with sharp eyes and sharper ears, an elf. She takes a round pastry from the counter, and in a moment of weakness, I let slip the name of that dastardly delectable treat, donut. As I realize my gaffe, the apron-laden elven girl clams a glance at me. Her face fills with surprise, which then turns to confusion and finally disgust. That's my cue to dust off, I think to myself as I slink back into the concealing safe harbor of the alleyway. No need to cause a right proper ruckus here. That dragon ain't gonna find itself. Wow, exciting stuff! On Tome Tales, you'll find thousands of stories like this and more. Be it stories of political intrigue or the travels of thrill-seeking adventurers, thrill-seeking bounty hunters, let their narrators guide you through realms of rich with adventure and mystery. Join the quest for knowledge and embark on a journey through the annals of time with Tome Tales today.
Dude, I am so sunk into my chair right now.
I kind of want to just end the show there. Just end on a high, you know?
I believe that's post-show then, right, bros?
Shit.
If I could have every audiobook that I listen to narrated by Blacktail,
Which one?
all of them.
Oh
Every single one. I want to read back through Harry Potter and this is Blacktail's perspective of Harry Potter.
Take stick out nose. Gurry goo. Ew.
I want that book. I want you to actually write out like a short, like 50-page version of that book.
I thought about it.
All right,
is the Blacktail version.
You one is done. We're starting a new company called Tome Tales.
I actually thought about it. When I finished writing this, I'm like, oh, I should write a short story of this.
Yes, that's
right now, and then rewrite it.
Yes.
With the
yes.
smart Blacktail
Yes.
version.
And that is the whole, yes. Oh my God. That is so fucking good. When you talked about the different languages thing, I was like, does Gray know another language?
I thought you were gonna hit us with here's what I thought you were gonna hit us with Blacktail in Spanish. That's what I thought you were gonna hit us with.
I thought was gonna happen.
Avoya. Wood. How do you say forest?
I don't know.
Voya wood.
Yeah.
No sé.
No sé.
¿Cómo se dice?
If you busted out Blacktail's Spanish, I would have died. I think I would have died.
I mean, but I almost don't want to, like, part of me wanted to go into pretending like Tome Tales was a real thing, like the bit. But God, that was just so good, man.
I very much enjoyed that. Very, very much enjoyed that. So,
oh man, I love that you do this. This is great.
My contribution to the show as I quit the editing process. Thank you very much.
100% bring me back in the editing. I need you in the editing.
No.
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 No. I say to no fur. No understand.
I can't rightly say that I want to be a part of the editing process. It's so good.
Wonderful. So,
well,
healing.
healing. I got to heal from that. That was crazy. Hit dice.
You guys already started going on a little bit, but healing in general, if you have no healing mages in a party, there's like no healing that gets done at all, and it's just a different campaign. You have to write for it, but it's just a different campaign.
Yeah, you'd have to heal if you allowed it. You have to heal through items or through managing your managing your movement and your confrontation.
I enjoy quite a
You
bit.
don't have to write for it. Your players have to deal with it, and they got to figure out how to deal with it.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
I meant
yeah,
write-
yeah, yeah. But
I meant
well,
write
no.
for it
Here's
as
why you
in-
got to write for it, though. Hold on. Here's why you do have to write for it is because healing in a lot of systems, again, the one I'm most comfortable in being 5e, is like clerics are insane, dude. Like essentially, like unless you're one shot killing your player characters, if you have a cleric past like level 6, they just fix it. It's just like, oh, I damaged the shit out of Gray. No, you didn't. I damaged the shit out of Nyx. No, you didn't. You could just do like clerics get to a level where they like obviously it's resource based, but they get to a level where it's just essentially consistent healing being doled out. So the reason why I say you have to write for it is because you have to write things so harsh if you have a cleric in order to compensate for a cleric existing. And if you brought that to a martial party, you'd just kill your martial party.
No, if your party has a cleric and you have intelligent creatures, like, hey, kill the cleric.
Yeah, if they
And then
they could see
Once the
thing
cleric's
healing.
on the ground,
Yeah, if they see a thing healing everybody, they deal with that person. What,
Yeah, the cleric could just heal themselves.
what I was gonna say was
I get what you're saying.
kill them harder.
Kill them harder.
Hey, you got 3 death saves to work with, and who's to say that they don't happen at once?
what I was gonna say was you have to allow for like yes, it's your player's responsibility to like if you don't have a healer, but like your world has to then allow for some level of healing to be gotten.
Or just the lack of need for
Like
it.
that's
By
all.
resting.
Yeah, that's all I was saying. Or resting, or if you allow, like for
Potions.
if you allow,
Yeah,
but
potions
potions
too.
are
But still,
expensive.
that's part of the whole. They have to figure it out in some situation. Like
Sure,
you can
sure.
put healing out there, and you can put healing out there in magical potions. You can find an item. You can, there's a doctor in the next town over who can just heal you guys. But when you're going into combat and you're all non-magical creatures or
just
no one has healing,
Yeah.
then it makes things so much more interesting because now they can't just run into something and expect someone to pat them on the back and
sure.
Oh, I agree.
but-
I actually prefer when there isn't a healer. I think it makes it much more serious and much more interesting. And then when there is I'm just saying that it's one extreme or the other. Either like obviously if you just litter them with magical items, Nyx, then they essentially just are healers themselves. But if they don't have that, if that's like not a thing, then the battle needs to be cultivated around the fact that you have an all martials class. It has to be winnable to some degree with an all martials class. So that's like writing it to one extreme. But then if there is a cleric, you have to write to the other extreme where you're just constantly doling out crazy amounts of damage with the expectation that the healer is going to etch away at that and make that not true.
Yeah, sure, but that's to me that's like more in line of like the traditional 5e is usually creatures hit pretty hard. Their AC is low. Your AC as a player can get pretty high, but usually it's it's relatively whatever. Usually you get hit hard. You have healers that heal you. I'm saying if you
have a healer.
yeah, if you have a healer. If you build, again, depending on how you're riding, depending on your team makeup, again, you do this thing where everyone's marshals, you don't have healing. But if you're also a proponent of like, oh, healing has to be hard, then you make potions harder to come by. Then it becomes, you can stack things in a way where like, even if your characters are trying to prepare, if you make it so like healing potions are hard in your world to get, then like
A
man, you're
normal
really
potion
stacking
of
the odds
healing
against
is
them.
50
and
gold.
also if like potions are of a size, so like even if they find potions, what do you have? One guy have a backpack full of fucking potions, like oh,
Well,
you can't
and then-
stack this.
there's that too. I'm not sure if it's still a thing in 5th edition, but there used to be a potion miscability where if you drink a potion and then you drink another one within too early of a time, some weird shit's gonna happen.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, my favorite game in the world, MMORPG called Mabinogi.
What the fuck did you just call me?
It's a slur. Don't worry. They heavily base their game off of old D&D to the point where like you have to take food with you because if you don't, you're gonna go hungry, and if you go hungry, your stamina is gonna drop faster, which makes it harder to use attacks and stuff.
Okay.
Interesting.
If you take damage, there's wound points.
Nice.
That's where I got that idea from. You have to take firewood into a dungeon because if you're injured and you don't have bandages, normally you could just rest, which is sitting down, and your HP will come back and your stamina will come back, but you won't heal wound points unless you're outside. If you're in a dungeon, you got to sit by a fire to do it. And there's no healing in that game except for one spell, and that's the healing spell. Costs a lot of mana, and I think if you get hit while using it, you completely lose it, so you got to cast it again. And there's potions, and you could just hit the potion key. You could just jam the J button and drink all the potions you have in your backpack. Then you get potion poisoning.
That's funny.
Which starts to hurt you.
But even without homebrewing constraints on healing for non-spells, a common potion of healing, so it's like the lowest version you could get, is 50 gold.
I was about to say
It's
there's also a constraint
already
of how much
super
it costs.
expensive
Yeah.
for that to be a consistent answer. So if you have an all martial party, they just don't have a way of doing that. So now you are writing for that extreme where the expectation is that they won't be healing in this combat. And then the moment you bring in a healer, healers are so unbelievably good at healing that it becomes a different extreme where you have to hit harder than you normally would to compensate for the fact that your healer exists.
Yeah.
So like it feels very one extreme or the other, instead of being like kind of middle ground,
Yeah. I mean,
in my opinion. Also, like it just takes away risk to a small degree, in my opinion. Like the fact that there's so many spells that come so easily, like Revivify and all of the different versions of healing. And if your cleric's super into being a support healer, they'll just have all of those spells.
Granted.
And then it just takes away the risk of dying. And you might lose in a combat, but you're probably not going to die or lose a player in a combat, which is good to a degree. Like that's the point of being a support class, is to make that happen, to not have people die on your team. But it becomes so accessible and so easy to make people not die on your team that it just feels like a shot in the other direction of extremity.
Granted, I think if you were to do fully rules as written with those high level healing spells, I believe, going per your argument in terms of potions costing a certain amount of gold, I believe a lot of those high end healing spells do require like 100 gold objects or like 1,000 gold objects.
I don't think heal does.
What?
I don't think healer.
No,
regen-
I don't think baseline
The
heal
healing
does.
spells don't, but the bringing people back does. Yes.
Yeah, Revivify needs a 300 gold diamond,
Yeah,
and then
I think Cure Wounds needs
Cure Wounds-
a non-valued thing, but I think the higher level spells do.
I don't think Cure Wounds doesn't. I don't think heal does either.
Healing word
I know
doesn't.
greater restorations and stuff do.
Yeah.
Healing word doesn't. Regeneration doesn't. They don't have material components. As
Oh,
far as
really?
I know.
I thought that was a
Or they don't
valued-
have consumable
yeah, consumable.
ones.
I thought the higher ones had something.
Resurrections do,
Yeah, I know those do.
but not. I don't think HP restoration does.
Okay. Yeah, then that is the case. But yeah, I mean, but it's one of the things about like party compositions. It's something that everyone usually has to do some level of thinking about. Again, because it's how normally you play the game. The healing component is a part of the whole thing. It's like when we played the game with those two new players, our friends.
Mhm.
You decided, because most people usually don't, if they're brand new to the game, don't pick a healing class.
They don't, support class in general, yeah.
Yeah, so you were
I
like,
played a support class
you played a
intentionally.
healing class to make sure that people didn't die.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because it was a one shot.
yeah, it was a one shot.
Also, just clerics in D&D are like, they're so good at healing also like the highest DPS.
Yes.
And it's like, why are you both of those things?
So I think it's part of that weird thing where something that Gray brought up, which is because Wizards of the Coast and 5e caters to such a broad audience,
Mm-hmm.
and you're trying to hit so many people, and like what you just said, which is most people don't pick support class.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the reasons why Cleric
They
has
made them
some of the
non-support
highest
classes.
damage spells is because who's going to pick it?
Yeah.
Like you have to entice people to pick this class where they can heal their party and heal party members. Well, if nobody's fucking picking this thing because nobody gives a fuck
gosh.
about healing,
Dude.
well, we got to give you fucking some of the hardest dealing damage so that it's at least fun for you.
You know what I really want to experiment in like a campaign with? We already talk about 5e being like a superhero campaign. Imagine running like a level 6 to 14 campaign where the whole party is clerics. And the level of creatures that you could put up against a party full of clerics. Talking 6 clerics on the battlefield. You could do really fucking massive epic battles with that. Like just crazy high, crazy damage output monsters. And oh my God, that'd be amazing. Just absolutely massive health pools because the fucking DPS of clerics is insane. You could do some crazy shit with an Oops All Clerics campaign.
It's all fun and games. So you're fighting 6 grave clerics.
Oh, grave domain characters.
Yeah.
And oh no, you can't stack vulnerability.
Just do it one after the other.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
Thing's dead.
you line it up so the character who goes first.
The first person casts a guiding bolt.
Oh
and
my
then-
God! Yeah, then the second person does the ability to make them vulnerable.
Mhm.
Then the third person just does whatever they want at the highest level.
You're talking like low level parties doing like on average 100 to 200 damage per round.
Oh yeah, you'd light up. It's one of the things that if
Why does anybody play anything but clerics?
if I was walking around in a D&D world and I saw a crew of clerics walking down the street, I'd give them the way. I'm like,
Holy
please, sir,
shit!
please move along.
You know what? I'm gonna put that into my campaign.
It's also
I'm gonna put a gang of clerics that just roams the world into my Saturday campaign, and like immediately they're gonna pass by and they're like, "Oh, neat clerics," and then they're gonna be like, the clerics are gonna be assholes, and then in meta, I'm just gonna be like, "Are you sure you really want to fuck with a group of clerics?
it's
Like full clerics?"
it's funny because like I wonder if with this idea of like, oh yeah, clerics are usually pretty strong as characters, and if
Yeah.
you've got a group of them together, I wonder if it's a reason why, or if it's a reason why you could in a world, a 5e world, where like, yeah, the churches are very powerful.
Oh my!
Like the churches,
Goodness.
like yeah, the church of the biggest building in the city, or whatever. Because if you have during their ritual day, whatever that day is, if you have a crew of clerics walking down your street, you know, saying their hymns and doing their whatever, nobody bothers them. The
Yeah.
city's like, no, you guys go ahead, go
Yeah,
ahead,
yeah.
do your thing. Nobody's bothering you. It's because anybody decides to fuck with them. It's like, oh man, this is a bad time for everybody involved.
I will also say, there's a lot of balance issues in 5e. You know what? Think, one, the crazy epic battles that you'd be able to have, but also it would be the most balanced player party between support, AoE, versatility, damage output. It would be the most balanced party that you could have. Everybody could genuinely have, like, the idea of having like roles.
Yeah.
Everybody could genuinely have roles. It'd be the most balanced party. Would be an all cleric party.
Yeah, I mean,
You could
it's
have
also-
your upfront cleric paladin party. It would
yeah, cleric paladin.
cleric
would be
paladin
insane.
party, but it would be the most balanced party that you could have because like higher levels, like lower levels, mages are weak. Higher levels, mages way outpace marshals. So like all of a sudden you would just have all the way through leveling, you would just have a completely balanced player party.
Yeah, it's a church, whatever the church of fucking Akrosh sends their paladins and clerics off to this island to tame it, and you just have that's your party of 4 people.
It'd be so easy to dig into the hook as well as just be like, The church is the most powerful thing in the world. You're from the church. The church is sending its most powerful clerics and paladins on this journey. And that's just part of the hook. So you know you're writing a paladin or a cleric. That's your call to action to get your players to fucking dig into this.
And it's funny because clerics and paladins are the ones where they have access to the full spell list, right?
I'm writing this.
Clerics have the full spell list. Paladins have access to
They're
Yeah, they do.
half-casters.
Yeah, right.
full access to the list that they have, but they're half casters, so they get things slower.
Yeah, they get things slower, but they still that level.
Yeah.
They have full access to the whatever
They don't have to learn things; they just memorize.
I'm settled.
Except for
I'm writing
their,
this.
Oh no, they can also choose their ability, right? The smites. They don't have to learn the smites, right?
No, it's built into the class. I think
Yeah,
there's two kinds: there's spell kind and the
There's
class
the spell
kind.
smites and there's the
Oh my
the channel
goodness.
divinity.
I just figured out the whole thing. I'm writing this as a mini campaign, high level. So I'm thinking like 8 to 12, something like that. It's going to be all clerics and paladins, starting at like level 8, and then it's Jurassic Park. The Feywild, just like my other game, the veil between the material plane and the Feywild has shattered, and now Fey creatures are just running rampant on this island, and the church, the most powerful entity in the world, is sending its best clerics and paladins to the island to take it out. It's just Jurassic Park. It's Jurassic Park with the goal of killing all of the creatures in Jurassic Park. And it's all clerics and paladins just for big boss fights the whole time.
I think you need to work on that part of your brain where every world just has a leaky veil. I think you need a plumber in there.
I've only done it once. But it's such a great excuse. I'm going to run a Jurassic Park campaign with all clerics and paladins, mini campaign. I'm going to immediately start writing that. I'm going to have that up and running in like the next 2 months.
You know what I thought of in terms of that kind of similar route was like the headcanon lores of like Realm Watchers, which would be like if you wanted to do it in the paladin cleric way, it's just clearing out the world. Like clearing an untamed world and just going to the different parts of the untamed world to clear out the danger.
I just like the idea of, I'll lean even harder. I like the idea that there's this like small island and it was like an attraction where they had penned up creatures from the Feywild, and then slowly they would allow creatures in from the Feywild, but then something happens and the portal opens permanently. And then you just got to go to this theme park filled with Feywild creatures as a bunch of paladins and clerics.
You need your Chris Pratt. You need your what's his name?
Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum. You need them in somewhere in the world.
Jurassic Park clerics and paladins.
The wilds find a way.
Welcome to Fey Park.
Fey Park. Oh my god, I'm calling it Fey Park. This is a stupid mini campaign anyways. I'm gonna allow for it to be goofy and dumb.
Sure.
And it'll be a call to be goofy and dumb. It'll be a mini campaign, so like maybe 6 to 12 sessions, and it'll just be paladins and clerics clearing out Jurassic Fey Park.
Oh, sorry. Just to track back a little bit. When Gray was talking about that video game, Acapulco, or what was it called?
Mabinogi.
Acapulco.
Acapulco.
Mabinogi.
Mabinogi. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay, that one. It reminded me of, like, again, harsh systems that have things like DCC. Healing is hard. Like, I believe you have to hit like a threshold with your DC to actually heal, and if you don't hit that threshold, you just like barely do anything. Like even as a healing caster, even as the healing subclass, you have to. I believe it's a level of success. You have to have a level of success in order to actually even heal damage. So like healing is hard, even with magic.
It is obviously,
but it is a harsh system,
oversimplified system. But I liked the concept for Campfire RPG is for magic. It is entirely. I'll talk about it from a healing standpoint, but it is entirely based on whether you are doing, touch, single target, range, or AOE.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on those, touch gives you the most benefits. So like 3 points, single target is 2 points, AoE is 1 point. whether it's a buff, damage, or whatever. It's a very simplified game. But healing works in that way. I like the idea that you just have a healing spell. Instead of having 10 different healing spells that work differently, you have a healing spell and you just decide how you cast it. And you get a range of benefits depending on how you're casting it. So if I walk up and put my hand on you like healing hand, I get the most benefits. It means I have to physically be next to you and touch you. So it's the hardest to accomplish, but you get the most benefits from it. If I target you across the battlefield, then you get a little bit less benefits, but still pretty decent. And then if I just want to hit my whole team with an AoE heal, it's minimal benefits, but I can do the whole team.
Sure.
I like the idea of one, I like the idea of spells being able to dictate how you cast it. Instead of having 1,000 different spells, have a fire spell and then you dictate how you cast it and have rules based on that dictation, how it operates. But two, also just lower level healing. I think healing's great. I think spell slots are weird for a lot of reasons, but that's a whole different topic. But like being able to do like 12d6 healing or something is nuts. I rather it be just you're more consistently able to heal, but it is significantly less healing. Like you do a d12 of healing, or what's the highest potion? 2d8? No. 3d8? 4d8? Highest healing
the
potion?
highest ones I've seen was like 8d4 plus 8 or something like that. That's like the superior or whatever.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I would say somewhere middle ground, so maybe like 4d4. That's your healing as a
Yeah.
as a healing caster, but you should be able to do it consistently. So it's low, but you could do it consistently. So you kind of get that like video game like World of Warcraft where you're just constantly doing healing spells and constantly supporting your team. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Along with other support things.
Sure.
But the problem I have is that you get that consistency in 5e, but then you also get the massive healing spells as well.
Yeah,
So it's just like so consistently being able to nope damage is really, really, really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of how you, like you said, part of how you then create tension in 5e is your creatures usually hit pretty hard, usually have AoEs.
I don't know if that is usual though. I think that's just dependent on the creature, whether they hit hard or not.
At least the way I've seen it played, where it looked fun and it looked like
Sure.
it looked like
You can do this for sure. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Its creatures have usually big damage, and like the usually the higher CRs you get, usually you get either a lot more attacks or AoE style attacks, and it becomes when your healer is at these higher levels. It isn't until like the very end where you get like a big AoE heal, but like you can't heal your whole party all at once. You have to kind of pick and choose.
You have to pick and choose. Yeah.
So like when your character is dealing multiple damage through multi attacks or through AoEs, it becomes harder to
Absolutely.
who do you pick to heal. And it's also like the other baseline rule, or the other like often ignored rule, which is not multicasting, like where you can't like action to cast and then bonus action.
Yeah.
So like,
Don't get me wrong. Through all of this, even when I was talking earlier about having to write extreme in one direction or extreme in the other direction, I don't have an issue doing that. I do it all the time. I
Sure.
have pretty much a full martial party in one of my campaigns, and then I have another campaign where they're all mages. So like cultivating as a DM is just always going to be a thing. And it's not like a huge issue. It's just interesting the extremes in which you would have to cultivate depending on whether one of your players is a healer or not. It's not really dependent on what the whole group's doing. It's depending on if anybody is a healer.
yeah, if anyone is healing,
or if
how much
anybody
you-
is not a healer. It
Yeah.
changes the way you have to write combat completely.
Yeah, in the single system, and
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you're
yeah.
talking about 5e, how much having access to a healer does shift how much your players would then have to think about.
Yeah, I would like to see healers in other systems. Maybe the next time we play, when we do system exploration for AD&D next time, maybe we'll have me be a healer, or you, whoever. Because I would like to see other systems and how they handle it. because I'm sure it's not always that. But
I believe AD&D is also a level of success. It's how well you roll. DCC is how well you roll
For what?
for healing.
No.
For like casting a spell. No.
No, ADD is like current D&D.
Oh, it's time to cast. Right.
Yeah, there's casting time.
Yeah.
which
So like
is-
you have to like sit in a position for like a round.
Well, it's because of the way initiative works, and the casting time is a modifier to your initiative. So if you're trying to cast Cure Light Wounds, if Sob's trying to cast Cure Light Wounds on Nyx, but Bandit number 2 goes first, and Bandit number 2 shoots Nyx with an arrow, or Sob with an arrow, your spell fizzles.
Yeah.
So.
Right. That it's just casting in general is hard in AD&D. Yeah.
But then on the
AD&D's
other
initiative is
side
just so drastically different.
is that in AD&D, the level of your spell slot doesn't matter. The level of you, the caster, matters.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
yes.
you get bonuses from just being a higher level. It
Are
doesn't
there
matter if you
spell
cast at a
slots?
level.
Yeah. It's all fancy in Magic. It's all like based off of sword and sorcery stuff.
Our friend, who we referred to last time as Meathead, you know who I'm talking about? No? Okay.
Keep going.
Meathead.
Oh, yeah.
Glasses Rescuer.
What did you say?
He doesn't even remember it. Glasses Rescuer. The guy
Oh.
who saves your glasses multiple times.
No, different.
No, that was a different guy.
Oh.
Different guy.
Thought that's the same person.
We need better code words. Anyways,
Yeah.
I have no idea who these people are, so
his system doesn't have any spell slots.
Yeah.
You can just cast. But it's dependent on your level, kind of how well you cast things. So, like, you can always do healing, but depending on your level, how well the healing works.
Sure.
You can always do damage or fire bolts or whatever if you are of that school, or I don't remember how it worked, or that class or whatever. You can always do it. There are no spell slots. Everything is treated like a cantrip. The potency of your abilities is based off of your level.
Yeah.
And I imagine everything is somewhat weaker because, like, the reason why spell slots make sense is because you have things that are first level spells that do a little bit, and you have things that are 9th level spells that end the world. And so you have spell slots to kind of dictate how many more of the small things you can do versus how many more of the big things you could do. Other versions, like our friends, is like, well, you can just always do magic. How potent your magic is always dependent on your ability to do magic. So you're never going to cast the world-ending spell at an earlier level. Like, you don't get to do, I get to do that once, but then I have to rely on my lower ones. Like, no, you just don't have that ability. You have the abilities of a level 3, whatever you are, a warlock.
Yeah.
And you can do warlock flavored things through magic. It's just only going to be to the depth of your level that will ever emanate.
I haven't read it yet, but I know it's supposedly it's where it comes from. It's I think it's a book series called Dying Earth. It's old sword and sorcery,
Sure.
Whatever. It's where Gary Gygax got the original like inspiration for how his magic worked. I believe the concept was when you cast a spell, you essentially forget the spell. Like it's the strain of casting it means that it gets wiped from your memory. And then you have to then spend your day the next day kind of memorizing it.
Yeah.
And relearning it. And that's how magic worked in that series, in that book series, or at least that was his interpretation through whatever. It's why
Sure.
like Pathfinder, when you unlike a 5e wizard, which is I'm gonna memorize this spell and I have 3 slots. I can cast this spell using those 3 slots. In Pathfinder, at least the original one, I don't know if 2 works this way, but in the new one, or in a version of Pathfinder, you have to dedicate those slots to the spell.
Yeah.
So like if you have whatever Chain Lightning,
Yeah.
and you have 2 slots of that level, those 2 slots are Chain Lightning.
In that vein, I preferred your system.
Sure. But it's still one of those things where like
Oh, it's neat where it comes from.
Yeah,
Well,
the
also,
inspiration
for the
is-
record, me talking about spell slots earlier and the purpose of them to be able to have like 10 level 1 spells but only one level 9 spell, it's neat. There's nothing wrong
yeah,
with
yeah.
that. It's neat. It's a neat way, and then unlimited cantrips. It's a neat way to accomplish being low level and being able to exert yourself in an extreme way once or twice, but be able to operate the whole time. It's interesting.
I still would love to like either run or play a game where they do the spell point variation that's in the DMG, where spells are you have a pool of points, so you don't have slots. You have your spells cost a number of points, and you have a number of points per day.
It's interesting.
So it's like it's a different. It's all
That
variations.
was kind of my original pitch for your thing would be like having a pool of energy.
Yeah. I mean, it's all like it's all neat. You know, you it's like playing like a sport. You have a set of rules that you have to abide by, and like it's cool to see how people work with those rules and what they do with it. And of course, as anybody who plays in any game, you're like, well, what if the game had these rules?
Yeah. There's a 5e class that I want to write. So me and one of my players wrote one class to be like a vampire class. We wrote together. And then there's like 2 others that I've always wanted to write, and I'm just going to dig them into that same vein of like that same flavor. But there's a mage that I want to write with a different resource system, which is like really powerful, kind of like how warlock spells are really powerful. Maybe not as powerful as warlocks, or actually maybe even more powerful. But this mage gets a higher health pool, so a higher hit die than most mages do. But you literally trade your own health for spells, so they're super powerful. I'm talking like cleric level powerful spells. But you literally spend your own health in order to be able to cast them. You are a glass cannon. You walk through and drain your own life force to put into your spells to just be able to do like constant fireballs and shit.
It's funny
at low levels. And then they get like, I think you would start off with like, I like to have everything upcast like a warlock.
Sure.
And then I think you would you don't get spell slots. I think you would get a limited amount of like known spells or something. I don't know. I have to think on it more, but like everything is upcasted like a warlock, but also everything costs your health.
My first thought is season 2 Critical Role. One of the players played a class designed by Matt Mercer.
Mm-hmm.
That part of that class's abilities, it was health was its resource.
Yeah.
So it would use its health in order to do whatever, and it was strong abilities. First character to die.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It died immediately, like within like I think 2 months of them playing. I think like fairly quickly, it was like, oh yeah, that character's dead. Because it's when you play with your health pool, and if you play too fast and loose with your health pool, yeah, you're gone.
You got to be careful about
yeah
how fast and loose you play with your health pool. So healing.
I was gonna say let's try to if anybody else has anything else.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we went over rests. We went over healing. Well, we could go over healing items. Here's one. Because I like to play with all marshals, and I absolutely do not discourage that. I usually put in a lot of natural healing into my games that aren't super expensive. They're not very good forms of healing, but I do put in like healing kits and shit like that do actual healing. Because I think healing kit, 2014 healing kit is just stabilizing.
If you have the healer feat, I think you do
Correct.
2d4 or something like that.
Correct. So mine, I believe, is 1d4 per use, and it's like actual medicine, not just magic. Not everything needs to be magic in a D&D campaign. And if you have all marshals, they should have a way to be able to accomplish healing that also makes sense. But like, why would there be no natural healers?
Sure.
But potions are expensive. We were talking about it earlier. Healing potions are very expensive. I always see all these campaigns where people are running around with healing potions. It's like, how much money does your DM allow you? I make everybody poor.
From what I've seen, a lot of games that I've seen play, a lot of healing potions get found.
True.
They usually do things where they either get given or they find healing potions.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll see them go and purchase, and it's usually a high expenditure. It's usually when the party is also of a higher level where like they just have access to a ton of money.
Yeah.
Because also like the DMG and the book don't explain how expensive beyond the initial healing potion is. Like any greater or superior, I believe
Really?
they still don't tell you what the price is.
Oh, that's interesting.
At least 2014 they did it. I don't know about the new one. I don't know if they give you prices.
I don't know.
But like, yeah, they're very like cavalier about like, well, this is the price of this one. Yep, the other ones exist. It's like, cool. You're not gonna help me out. You're not gonna give me like a suggestion of how much they're gonna cost.
Yeah, just
I
double
think
it.
there's like a DMG rule that's like if it's of this rarity, multiply it or something like that.
Yes, there is a table you can follow when it comes to the rarity of an item and like how much
interesting.
you would price it out to be.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean,
I just like, I don't know. I like adding natural healing into games because healing is so expensive to do, but I also don't want to push for there being a healer in the party.
I like the idea of like the John Wick movies where like John goes to see that doctor and he gets patched up and he can continue fighting for a little bit. Where like, yeah, you have a non-magical,
Yeah.
you just get some bitch ass stitches into you and some like get a fucking patch on you
Yeah.
and drink some alcohol and like, yeah, you could keep running around for a little bit. It's
Yeah.
not fully healed.
No. Yeah, not fully healed, but like,
Yeah. It'll help you a bit.
Mhm.
And I also think of like Dark and Darker, where like the character just gets a bandage and rolls it around their arm, and you're healed.
Yeah, the
Far Cry.
Far Cry, snapping your thumb back into place.
Yeah.
I think I do put natural ways to heal here and there, but I also feel like I do that just because my players expect there to be some sort of potion or magical item that I could give them, which I really got to reel back on.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of more and more I'm trying to adopt that whole idea of G&G where don't get shot,
Yeah.
but in my world just don't get stabbed.
Yeah.
So
I
But me and you like the harsh.
I do. I
Not
really
everybody
do like
does.
the harshness of things because it just makes things more interesting to me.
I agree.
It's a lot more fun to play with.
I like the thing you talked about too, where the some of the other inspirations, some of the stuff that you talked about, were like potions can give you sickness.
Mhm.
Like,
Oh, that's really cool. I like that. Yeah.
yeah, because I can only imagine a healing potion is some crazy concoction of stabilized magic and other ingredients that probably not good for anybody to consume.
I
Really.
kind of like it like medicine in real life. Like anything you put in your body has consequences.
Yeah. If you were sick, you don't go chug half a bottle of fucking NyQuil.
If your
'cause it'll
tummy
give
is
you a bad time.
If your tummy's upset, you don't drink the whole bottle of Pepto.
Yeah. That's why it's like, hey, you take a capful and that's it.
Yeah.
Don't do more than that. Hey, guess what? If you take more than 4 doses in 24, go call your doctor. It's not good.
I like that with healing potions. I think that's pretty funny.
Yeah, putting in some sort of limitation. So like just to make things a little harder.
Yeah, if they drink too many healing potions, you start taking away their dexterity.
I like that.
Starts getting blind a little. Like, what's happening?
As if it's in like an exhaustion point. Yeah. Ah, goodness.
And you guys got anything else?
I need the bathroom again. I don't know what's wrong with me
Good
today.
Lord, dude.
I'll wait till post show. No, I think I'm good. I think talking about natural healing, talking about healing through items, healing through magic, which if it wasn't clear, I'm not against. I just prefer it being a little bit softer than
Sure.
some of the more hero-y systems.
I think healing through in my opinion, as much as I want to curb healing in general, I think healing through magic should be strong.
I don't disagree with strong. I don't think it should be like crazy strong. There should be some limitation to it.
I mean, usually there is, and the limitation is your spell slots.
Yeah.
True.
And if they have too many spell slots, you're not doing the right You're just not doing your job as a DM.
But if they have too many, well, hold on. I guess we are still in it because the problem is that characters have a lot of spell slots. As we talked earlier, resource management is no longer really part of the game. So the only way,
Well, long term, short term, in terms of in a battle, it should.
long term, but yeah, exactly. But when you're getting into a situation, you more than likely peak when you're starting off in the battle. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but you have to manage your resources in
In the
short
battle,
term,
yes.
In that short
Not
term.
disagreeing with you, but with the amount of spell slots that you get in 5e, combat usually doesn't last enough rounds for you to spend all of your spell slots anyways. Combat is also commonly thought of to be tedious and boring if you just make your guy a big old meat shield. So I don't know how you would remove their abilities to do spell slots without extending the battle, because you're only expending one spell slot per round. Most combats are like 5 to 7 rounds max. You have way more than 7 spell slots.
Combats have a before and after. If they're walking into a battle with full spell slots,
Yeah, but that's in 5e they are though. A lot of the times is what I'm saying.
well, if their fight is just there's nothing, no danger here, and then they cross a line, and then there's the
Get
danger.
into a fight, yeah.
Then sure,
Yeah.
that's the case. But if they gotta go to a place to get through that danger, and it's kind of dangerous along the way,
Yeah, if it's a whole quest line, yeah, sure. Like and like
setting up scenarios in which specific people, if you have a party that's limited magic users,
absolutely.
or even setting up it in a situation where you do coax out a little bit from your cleric, where you kind of like,
Well, you lull them into a false sense of security so they start using their spells in roleplay. That's what you do.
that's a good idea too. Hey, sometimes you gotta make them feel like there's some magic around. I gotta cast detect magic.
Yes, sir.
Is that a trap? I'm gonna find and remove traps. You know, that's stuff like that.
Yeah.
There has to be something.
Oh no, I totally
hey,
agree with you. I totally agree.
You just
with
found there's a strange green mist pouring out of this door. Do you just want to open it? No, you want to give yourself protection against poison.
also you have the magic slot goblin who just wants to come by and he will trade you a magic, a casting slot, a spell slot for some sort of treat. You also
Sure.
use that guy too.
Sure.
What the fuck are you talking about?
In reverse, he'll give you a treat for a spell slot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. He just runs around and he's like, here, I'll give you this nice treat if you give me one of your spell slots.
And then he stabs you with a poison knife.
I was just about to say, are you guys just being coy about the idea of just having a goblin attack your party before they get into a big combat?
No, I kind of want to have a spell
genuine
slot
dealer.
goblin.
Yeah.
You just feed him a
slot
spell
dealer.
slot. Yeah.
Where he's like, hey, cast your spell
Hey,
onto my
adventurer,
magic
I got
orb.
spell slots. You buying?
I
Oh,
wasn't
no,
thinking that.
selling spell
Welcome.
slots?
I wasn't thinking that, but also I'm down for that too.
The opposite. It's like, I got a healing potion, but you have to cast a leveled spell into
that's what
my
I was
orb so I
thinking.
can absorb its energy. So then it's like, basically, give me a spell slot and
Yeah,
I'll give you a reward.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I'm going to do that too. I feel like
Also-
every podcast, I'm just like, I'm in. I'm
Also,
stealing that.
I
It's
like
mine
the
now.
I like the version that Gray said,
I like both.
which is
Hey.
no, but also
I got spell slots. You
If
looking
you-
for spell slots?
the way he gets the spell slot from you is he just stabs you. He stabs you with a knife and goes, "Gah, I got your spell slot now."
No. It's a poison dagger, so they gotta get rid of that poison by casting something on themselves.
It brought me back to Realm Watchers days. I'm writing a creature, and it has a low health pool, but every one of its attacks restore health to itself.
Yeah.
And then also every time it attacks you, you have to make a check for to save against exhaustion.
Yeah. Sorry, I also had the thought of even the goblin that gives you the spell slot is also still through a poison dagger.
You want a spell slot? It's just a bunch of daggers. Like, I don't know what you're selling, but yes. He just stabs you, and you're like, you got an extra spell slot.
You're also poisoned. It's wyvern poison. You better take care of that.
Yeah, it's gonna this is gonna fuck you up.
It's a temporary spell slot, though. So if you use remove poison, all this was for naught.
Oh, dude, it's like, what if I trade you 2 of my level 3s? You give me level 5. That's 3 knives. I'll do it.
Stab, stab, stab. And then it turns out none of it's real, and he's just a guy
he's just
stabbing
there to
you,
stab
asking
you?
permission to stab you.
And he just giggles as he runs off.
He's just a serial stabber. You guys are dealing with the same guy.
Yeah. Oh, one of my
He just wears a little funny nose with glasses.
one of my favorite
I love the
NPCs
spell slot
that Meathead had introduced in our campaign was a gnome that was like a tinker, and he's like, "Yeah, I could build you something. What do you want?" He's like, "Well, I want my coat to be fireproof." And he's like, "Yeah, I could do that. It's this much money." You give him the money, and I'm like, I'm not totally convinced that he could do it. And then the DM's response was, "Neither is he." Get it back. Is it fireproof? I don't know. Do you have magic? Can you check? No. Huh? Get lit on fire.
As far as you're aware.
You were told it's fireproof. It does look like he did something to it.
That's funny.
All right. Anything else on healing? No? We all good?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, the other thing now.
Thank you for listening to Take the Damage podcast by Unfortunate One. I'm Sav. You can find my links in the description. You can find me over at startplaying.games if you want to join one of my campaigns. I do run campaigns professionally.
Nix, you can find my links in the description.
Greythorn, links in description. I usually stream games on Fridays, but mine has ended, so I am on a hiatus.
Nice. And
Very
I
fun.
like always, like and subscribe. The more subscriptions we get, at least the baseline number is 500. And then a lot of those links won't be broken in the description. We'll be able to do some of the other things we could do with YouTube. Also, go to our website.
Yeah. If you want to catch our pre-show or post-show recordings, just some extra content that we do put out into the ether, you can get that by becoming a member of either our Patreon or our website.
Yeah.
Also do something with bells.
Yeah. Bell's not. You could do the bell, but it's the like and subscribe. Those are the big ones.
Bye.
See ya. Thanks for listening.